Does this clicker work? Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for having me. I'm assuming this is my slides. Perfect. Very crowded room today. I see a lot of hungry faces. My name is Hamza. I'm the CEO of a company called Suburbia. We're an alternative data company. We believe that alternative data should be for everyone, so we can all make good decisions faster. And you're wondering, well, what is alternative data? Well, before I introduce alternative data, let me tell you about traditional data. Specifically, let me tell you one fact about traditional data that you might not know. This might blow your mind, but generally it sucks. You guys know this. Data is inconsistent. What data you get from one source doesn't line up with the data you get from another source. It's unstructured. You're getting data in all these different formats that you then need to clean and put into something you can understand. It's lagged. The data you get in June is probably the data about the world that took place, if you're lucky, in April, probably in February, maybe in June of last year. It's difficult to access. Either you need to have really good coding experience, being able to pull down something from an API, or you have to go through some arcane system that was developed in 1980, so not easy. Data as it exists today is measured the same way for the last 40 years. It's someone going out, filling out a survey. It's someone going out, looking at a very small sample set of users. So if you have a market of 200 million people, you're basing your analysis on these 300 million people on 3,000 people. That doesn't help. The way that we measure it hasn't really changed in 40 years. And what's worse is that the way that the data is shared hasn't changed for 20 years. We're still going to the same websites, the same financial data platforms, figure out what's happening with unemployment or stock prices, et cetera. It's all the same. When you look at how every other technology has changed, why hasn't data? In the age of smartphones and tablets, data, is it this? Or is it this? I'm worried it's even worse. Is it this? Is this how we communicate data from its source to its user? The reality is it might even be this, We're looking at two people shouting that they can't understand, and it doesn't help. The decisions you need to make based on the data are often inaccurate. You're not confident about them. Whether it's an investment decision, a business decision, a hiring decision, a marketing decision, without good data, it's hard to do. So good news is Suburbia does better, obviously. What we do is we collect data from news sources. So instead of depending on a survey you need to send out that people maybe fill out or maybe don't, we go to news sources like, for instance, credit card transactions to figure out what people are actually buying. I know that if I was taking a survey, I'd say I ate a salad. But really, I bought a Big Mac. So if you can actually capture the transaction, you know what people are actually buying. If you look at what's happening with trade, do you want to wait for government statistics that are lagged by a year, or do you want to look at shipping container receipts to see what's actually entering your country? Do you want to know where ships are in real time, right now, rather than waiting for months behind it? And so we take all this cool stuff, we put it into a really efficient new system, and then we share it with decision makers, with corporations, with journalists, so that everyone has access to this data and they can use it for whatever they need to do. In practical terms, let me show you our system. This is for the Netherlands. We're based in Amsterdam, so we look at car registrations by brand. And you can see how many Mercedes are being sold versus how many Audis are being sold over the last, I think this goes back 3 years. And then you can say, okay, Mercedes versus Audi, interesting. What about silver versus black Audis? What if I want to dive into a specific subset? You can do that on our system. And you say, okay, I can dive into a specific subset, but what if I want to share across assets? You want to compare the number of Audis sold with the average wages in the country. As people get richer, do they buy more Audis, or do they put their money into savings accounts? And that will tell you what's happening with the economy, if people are confident or not confident. That'll tell you what's going to happen to Audi's share price, for example. So there's a lot of really interesting value in this data. And the question is, why are we doing this now? If this is so simple, why wasn't it done 40 years ago, 20 years ago? Well, generally, there's economic forces in play. The old days, the baller banks, i.e. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, paying whatever for data, that doesn't exist anymore. So all these companies that have been out there collecting data, they've had no incentive to improve because they had a check coming in every month. We're talking single banks spending millions on data. That just doesn't happen anymore. They're becoming more and more selective. People have to do better in how they collect and present data. So it creates an opportunity for us. Secondly, social forces. The users of data are understanding that, hey, more and more data is being generated. There's that old statistic that like more data was created between the start of humanity and 2014 as there was in the last 3 weeks. I don't know if that statistic is true or not, but we realize there's more data out there. Why aren't we able to access it? So there's a social incentive for it here. And then lastly, there's a technical force. A lot of the systems that were created for sharing and collecting data, when they were produced, they were expensive. You know, you had to build mainframes and sensors, and it was hard to do. Today, Suburbia can do, we can collect 10 times as much data. We can do it for a tenth of the price, and we can do it 10 times as fast. So there's a real opportunity here that we're taking advantage of. And why Suburbia? Like, why do you need an intermediary here? Why not go directly to the source? So if you're a data supplier, for instance, if you're a company that has data about transactions, why not go straight to the market? Why not speak to the banks straight away? And we say, well, number one, we take care of all of the regulatory issues. We make sure that the data is aggregated, it's non-personal, it's GDPR compliant, it's PSD2 compliant. We take care of the legal compliance and operational issues for you. Number two, we're a marketplace. We connect you with more buyers than you would be able to do alone. You're a startup, you have a day job. Data selling and data aggregation, that's not what you want to be spending your time on. We'll take it off your hands and just give you money for the data. And we'll enrich it and help you figure out what's happening in your market so you can do better, both yourself and for your clients. So if you're a data supplier, great, you want to work with Suburbia. If you're a data user, why would you come to Suburbia? Why not just go straight to the shipping company that has the shipping data? Well, number one, we dive down into a market. So if you are looking at the shipping market and you go to a startup in the shipping space, they'll give you maybe 4% of market coverage. And that 4% is going to be expensive, time-consuming, legal issues, technical issues, compliance issues. Why not go to a company like Suburbia that's already done all the hard work? We've spoken to 20 shipping companies. We've put all their data into one place so that all you need to do is press a button and boom, you have global shipping insights. And then for everyone, really, last thing, there's a moral issue at play here. Throughout the history of humanity, more data from more places always led to a better world. Data secrecy, oh, I'm hiding behind my little paywall, I have data and you don't. That doesn't work anymore. Data should be for everyone. That's our motto. That's what we believe in at Suburbia. That's what we're trying to do. So this is my contact details, suburbia.io, hamza@suburbia.io. If you have data, if you're a company that's, for instance, working in the payment space, working in the trade space, working in the construction sector, and you're sitting on all of this data that you think is really interesting and you want to share it with the world, or you want to apply really cool machine learning or AI models to it, come talk to us. We can help you figure out what you can do with your data, what sort of insights you can get from it, and best of all, we'll pay you to do that. If you're someone who's interested in data, if you're an investor, if you're a corporation, if you're in marketing, if you're in the construction sector, and you want to know, hey, what's Brexit going to do to me next year? Or you want to know, hey, what's the Trump impact on steel or on agriculture or on consumer behavior? We can give you these insights. And thirdly, if you just love data and you're in machine learning, you're in AI, you want to play around with data, we have a ton of it. We'd love to share it with you. Come talk to us. So I'll wrap it up there. I know a couple of speakers run late. I'd like to not do the same. But we have a booth outside. Come talk to us, and thank you guys for listening.